Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come-to-where-I'm-from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.
So this is not your usual venue, this room.
It's unusual.
Oh, good. Something's going to happen because of it.
I hope so.
Yeah. It's like changing up the cake batter.
Changing the cake batter?
Yeah.
Is that an expression? Or did you just make it up?
I just made it up, but it's probably been used before.
I've never heard it before.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So you wore that long sleeve shirt on the train in this heat wave?
And, yeah, my shirt underneath. I'm always cold.
Even in this heat wave?
Pretty cold, yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's always been me. I'm shockingly cold to people.
That is shocking.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's over the top.
Yeah, it's...
I mean, in here it's air conditioned, so...
Yeah, which is, I'd be cold if I didn't have this shirt on.
Yeah, I'm a little cold.
You are?
Well, no, I'm all right.
You want my shirt?
No, it's okay. I sweat. I have like a sweating issue.
Like every night do you sweat?
Well, I do hot yoga.
Okay, so you try to sweat.
I try to sweat, but I sweat so much more than other people in the class.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous.
You're probably healthier than everyone else.
I've looked it up because it's, because it's like, it was alarming when I first noticed it.
Right, but you're okay.
I guess. I didn't.
You look fine.
I feel fine, but when I looked it up, it seemed like that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get migraine headaches, and
oh, really?
Yeah, and sometimes,
How often?
Very often, like 10 to 12 a month.
Wow.
I take a monthly injection. I do, it's genetic. But it's a hassle nonetheless. And sometimes I've convinced myself that if I break a really good sweat, I can break a headache. On occasion, that will work. So I hit the gym and just really blow it out and see if I can break a good sweat.
Have you tried hot yoga?
Oh, sure. I've tried acupuncture, everything.
But the hot yoga didn't take? Or
I don't know that I ever did it with a migraine. Oh, you mean like as a practice?
As a practice, yeah.
I should, because I'm so cold all the time.
I mean, it seems tailor-made.
Yeah. Where do you do it?
I've been in the city. I've been doing it at this place called Fierce Grace.
Yeah, where?
Which
what part
is
of
Lower East Side.
Why don't you and I have a date to go?
I would love that. In fact, I just rejoined, and so I have guest pass.
What?
Yes, I would.
Can I be your plus one?
I would be privileged if you would join me.
I'm hypermobile. Mobile? Hypermobile? I'm
flexible.
Flexible.
I think you'd love it.
Yeah, and I'd be warm, and I wouldn't need this shirt.
You would definitely be warm.
What's the temp in the room?
I don't know what it is, but it's definitely hot enough for where when I'm done, there is a puddle around me,
I want that.
Yeah.
I want that so bad.
Come with me this week.
What day are we going?
Any day. I go every day.
Oh, wow.
I'm like that.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy. I go every day, so I'll give you my number.
Yeah.
And you can just, when you feel like it, come. I think it's such a great practice.
I think anything one can do to kind of center themselves and their awareness of their breathing, their body, their mind, whatever it might be. I know people do a lot of different things. I have friends who do meditation and chant. That kind of feeds and waters us in ways that I think are immeasurable.
Yeah, it's essential. It's like, yeah, for sure. And for me, the yoga practice is meditation. When I'm breathing, I'm in yoga. I'm always thinking of a mantra, usually Ho'oponopono prayer, which is I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
Oh,
have
say that again.
Have you heard of that one?
No, but say it again.
I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Yeah, it's very healing, especially Are you getting weepy on it? Yeah, no, it's incredibly powerful for something as simple as it is. We can do it. We can keep going. Hey, listen, I'm a weepy person too.
I cry all the time.
Me too.
But do you have a tissue at the ready?
I just wore a black shirt so I can just do this move.
Yeah. My 6-year-old boys do that move too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Except George, one of the boys, they're identical twins.
That's
George,
cute.
for the past few months, has been obsessed with tissue.
Uh-huh.
And his kindergarten teacher, before the end of the year, she texted us. She said, George has been just tearing up the tissue lately, just going through a box a day.
Obsessed with it, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder what
at
that's
first he
about.
was wiping his nose a little bit, but now he just grabs one and tears it up. They go through phases, as small humans do.
And big humans.
Yeah. What's your phase right now? I love you.
I love you. I'm sorry.
Please forgive me. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Still have something in my eye.
Yeah, it's getting bright in here.
Yeah. That's really good. That's really powerful.
It is. It's a great prayer that helps you to take responsibility for everything that enters your field of consciousness.
Yeah.
It was this guy, Dr. Hugh Lynn, who sort of popularized it. Joe Vitale wrote this book called, I think, No Limits. This Dr. Hugh Lynn, he healed a mental institution for the criminally insane. He started doing these things where people would just send him their issues.
Right.
And he would simply read their issues.
Right.
And then it entered into his field of consciousness.
Yeah.
So it became his problem.
He processed it for them.
He took such responsibility for everything in his field of consciousness that if somebody had an issue and he even heard about it, it was his issue. Like, this guy was like
A true empath.
True empath.
Yeah.
Hardcore, super empath. And super unassuming guy when you look at his interviews, like not coming off guru-y at all.
Yeah.
Like super humble.
Nice.
And there was a hospital for the criminally insane that was all run down, people in chains, this, that, and the other, terrible, understaffed.
Yeah.
They wanted him to work there. He said, just send me the files. I don't need to go there. And they're like, well, we can't. The files are like, private. And he said, okay, I'll go. And he never saw a patient the whole time he was there. He just read their files in the office and did the Ho'oponopono prayer while taking it on. And after a couple of years, or after 3 or 4 years, the hospital shut down because but before that it got overstaffed. It became nobody was in chains. I mean, he healed everybody.
Well, the question I have is, although he didn't see the patients, did they know he was reading their
That's a good
struggles?
question. I don't know. I don't think so, because also they were like criminally insane, so probably not. They probably just saw him wandering around.
Knowing that someone hears you is pretty big.
I agree. I mean, to me that story is documented, but also on the side of woo-woo.
Woo-woo.
It's on the side of woo-woo,
but
I look at it like, okay, if that story is even vaguely true, which I actually believe it is true, but even if it's partially true, imagine the power of that mantra if you're applying it with yourself on your own life. Like, you just felt the power of it even for 1 second. So I do those hot yoga sessions where I'm making that every in-breath and out-breath, and I start my days with it.
I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's healing.
Nice.
I relate to you a lot, because I've been checking out your story, and there's a lot of aspects of your story I relate to a lot.
Yeah.
And one of them is that you sort of found a love of God when you were 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believed it. I know a number of people who were reared in the same kind of church-going conservative environment that I was, and despite their parents taking them to church, Wednesday night, Sunday night, and Sunday morning, they didn't buy in.
Right.
And I don't know why or how, or I bought in. I didn't buy into everything. I still, faith is a practice as well.
That's true.
I've got more questions than answers, but
Yeah.
for me, it's kind of been, I feel incomplete without some sort of faith practice because I believe it.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it any other way. like I just honestly don't know how.
It's an infected splinter. If they don't believe it and they try to, and it's in there and it doesn't belong in there,
How do you mean? What do you mean by that? An infected splinter.
Well, when you try to force something into a spot that it doesn't naturally or intelligently or spiritually want to go, I think your body rejects it, and I think your spirit rejects it. And I think that I have good friends who are agnostic, atheists, all different. I see some hands.
Oh yeah,
but
this guy.
I feel like, and we love him for it.
It's just not there, and I don't know how to bring it in, or I don't feel like I need it. It's
right.
just I don't know how to explain it.
So to continue on to my metaphor of the splinter, if it were ever forced on you, which it perhaps may have been in your lifetime.
I try to force it. No. I'm
Yeah. I think your spirit and your being will reject it, and as I cite as evidence, the many faith leaders, in particular in the United States, who do very bad things.
Oh right, yeah.
I don't believe that they believe.
Oh yeah.
I think they're posing, and they've become a big infected wound.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So that's it. That we get to, and young children and other people of faith are subjected to the festering pus of their lie.
Yeah, that's a hardcore way of putting it, and I mean for sure, people are obviously they use that as a cover.
Yeah, but whatever's in there is going to come out. Like if you just, I think they try really hard to keep that in there because they're supposed to, and it's their livelihood and it's their identity. But if you don't get it, if you don't buy into God or having a maker, I just don't know how you get it. I don't know how you go through life pretending that you do. Although many do, that they crash and burn.
Yeah. When I say I don't get how people do it without it, I don't mean in a judgmental towards people. Like I'm not judging Ehud at all. It's more just it's almost reverse judgment on myself. Like I feel like I need that. I do believe it, and I've always had that conscious conversation going on, and I know it came out of struggle.
Yeah.
Right. Like even from when I was a kid. That's how I mean it. Not in a weird way. I mean, it's not that I respect somebody who doesn't believe it, but in a way that's even almost more what I'm saying.
It's courageous.
Like, how do you do it? Like, I mean, this world is so crazy, and
I think it's courageous.
I need that. Like, hey, are we cool? What's going on? Like.
For me, the practice of faith, I think, makes me a better person, deeply flawed as I am. I think the practice of it helps me. I mean, I gotta have hope. Like, a couple of years ago, I was in a hotel room, and I had a real, it was one of the moments in my life where I was like, I don't think I believe in you. Like, I've had it, and it was the day that, do you remember that tourist duck boat that sank in Branson?
Yeah.
And that woman lost, I think she was from Indiana, she lost her in-laws, all of her children, her husband, a nephew, I think.
Yeah.
And as she came out and did a press conference, and I just heard her, people asking her questions, and she was, in deep despair and found the way to, get out there and talk about it. I just was like, I don't think I believe in God.
Right.
What kind of a God would let that happen?
Right.
And I also, I mean, I've receded a little bit from that cynicism. I believe again still, but I don't think that everything happens for a reason. I'm not in that camp.
Right.
I hear that at least once a day when someone says, "Well, I guess everything happens for." I don't believe that.
Right.
I don't think God designed her life to end, her family's life to end that way.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That comes up every time people talk about God. Is like, how could there be a God if this happens? And things like that happen all the time.
Every day.
All every second.
Day long.
So do you stop thinking about it, or like you just doubted it that one time, but it's like it's never ending?
I question a lot. Like, that was just a moment for me where I just I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't buy into this. But I do have questions every day, and somebody made me. I don't know.
Yeah, something doesn't come from nothing, in my opinion.
Right.
But to me,
or does it?
Or does it? Maybe it does. I don't think so. But it seems unreasonable that. But like, I just think this might be soul boot camp. Like, that's the way I sort of go.
Yeah.
Process all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, like, we don't understand fully the dynamics of like this life to the next and all that kind of stuff. That's how
can we?
Yeah.
When you think about like just our physical selves, what do we use, like 9% of our brain?
That's what they say, but how do they know that? What do they get? Like a little percentage meter?
Right.
Did they put it in my brain when I wasn't looking? Because I think I'm using 100%.
Right?
Or maybe I could levitate if I really was, but I don't know.
But yeah, so when you think
how do they know that stuff when they say things like
somebody
that?
using 100% of their brain, calibrated ours.
It's MRIs of the brain and all that kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so imagine that kind of an overlay of that on top of our spiritual selves.
Yeah.
Like, we barely know what we're doing. We're barely just walking around fumbling in the dark.
Yeah. Well, I never went to church. My family had no church going vibe at all, and I started praying when I was a kid. So that also and
it was in you.
Asked to go to church. Yeah, it was in me. Yeah. Weirdly. So that
beautifully.
Beautifully and weirdly. Yeah.
Unusually.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I get really frustrated. Obviously, we all watch a lot of news, I'm sure, because we're Americans living through a hellfire.
I don't actually. I've stopped. I've sort of turned it off.
I've curbed mine back quite a bit. But I get really bothered by when any politician of any stripe ends a speech or comments, aside from the fact if it's like a mass shooting or something and people need to turn to prayer or feel compelled to turn to prayer, may God bless America or God bless all of us. At the end of a State of the Union speech, I don't like it when the president says, and may God bless America. I don't like it.
Why?
I think it's exclusive. I think it's not inclusive. I think you get all of the remarks from the president about the actual state of our union, and at the end, it's a kind of a secret little, you're only the right American if you buy into that. I often imagine, what would it be like to be an agnostic or an atheist American? Like, you're left out at every turn.
I don't know.
Why do they need to say that?
May God bless America.
I think it's on the checklist of things to say.
I mean, it's on the money too.
At
In
this
God
point,
we
it's
trust.
meaningless.
Yeah, it wasn't originally.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't. It was added.
I think it's meaningless. It's just like they have to say it, otherwise the right and the religious people are like, why didn't he say God? Just like the whole Merry Christmas thing and like Happy Holidays.
Right. I mean, most
at
presidents
this point,
need to be Christian, don't they? Like, at least they need to.
Well, that's my point.
That part's wild. That part's a bit more wild to me than them saying, "May God bless America."
They don't need to be Christian.
I know, but it's like they all have been so far.
Right.
At least in claiming.
Well, the first mouse seldom gets the cheese.
What's that mean?
There's going to be someone that we're going to have a non-Christian president at some point.
Yeah.
America needs to, isn't Bobby Jindal, isn't he not Christian? I feel like he was running for president at some point. Anyway, I think it's not, like you're saying, they feel like they have to say it at the end of a speech.
I think it's like mandatory.
Right, which offends me.
100%, but it's just like it used to be a president just had to be born here. Now they're concerned if you're married or not, if you're gay or not, if you're religious or not. It's like all these things get added.
If you
as
hug
time.
the flag.
Yeah, it's just
if
like.
If you kneel or don't kneel at the football game.
Exactly. And
I just think it seems not authentic and like throwing a whole base of the electorate a bone at the end. I mean, if you're really a person of faith and that's really the way you want to identify as the president, I don't want you to not say it, but if you're saying it to placate the evangelical right, don't say it.
I know, but that is politics. They're placating. It's a game of placation, if that's a word. I mean, the whole thing is that. So it's like I have a hard time taking it all that seriously. You know what I mean? It's like.
Well, imagine if you were an agnostic American.
I don't think it would. I would just not take it that seriously. I already don't take it that seriously.
What's wrong with me that I think about that then?
I don't know if anything's wrong with you. I think that I think that it's important to you. It's not to me. Like I'm just, it's just like, I see it as an illusion in a way or something anyway, or just politics in general, or just kind of like, it feels like we're being distracted from our essence by a lot of these things in the media and stuff like that, and outrage, and I feel like we're being duped in a big way. So it's hard for me to like really get concerned about something like a president saying, "May God bless America." It's just like, that's the least of my worries.
Does it bother you any is your lack of concern with a president saying, "God bless America," is it commensurate between a person who, like, say, Jimmy Carter, who actually seemed to have a really authentic faith practice, and then Donald Trump saying it? Do you feel any difference?
I mean, once they're in that arena, it's like, I don't, it's hard to know who's authentic and who's not and all that stuff like that, because just the nature of the beast. It's like...
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree with him. You're on display, so you're just playing the part.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely trust Jimmy Carter more than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling that Jimmy Carter is true to faith. But yeah, again, it's, politics aren't my like forte. For I guess these reasons. Like I'm more, focused on mantras and trying to get people to do yoga and stuff like that brings it back to their self and finding their power as individuals and their connection within themselves as individuals, and away from the distraction and blinking lights and stuff like that.
I don't mean to be a contrarian, but your missive
one.
Your missive of getting people back to away from the distractions and back to their feelings and their essence.
Yeah.
Your mission is being impeded by people who propagate inauthentic faith. That's getting in their way.
How so?
When people wave the God flag and they don't mean it and they don't live it, that makes your students that you're trying to bring to.
I don't think I have students.
Well, I do. You have a voice here, and you're talking about people kind of finding their center and their spiritual self and their authenticity. One of the huge roadblocks that's keeping people from seeking a path for themselves and their physical, spiritual, mental, emotional well-being is organized religion.
Yeah.
So I think
I'm not really big on organized religion.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
Right, but when somebody says, "May God bless America,"
that doesn't mean it.
That doesn't mean it. Like, what God are they talking about blessing America to? They're not saying, "May Jesus Christ bless America." That, like, you know what I mean? So in a way, it's like, "May God bless America" is also somewhat vague, even though, like, we all get that they do mean, I guess, like, it's a Christian God in America, and it's just like, I don't know. It's like there's so much corrupt stuff out here.
Yeah, pick your poison.
Pick your poison. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Like I said, politics just isn't really my strong suit. I could see getting more political in time, maybe, but just that hasn't been my leanings.
Yeah.
So far, but I get the feeling for you, it is very much so.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a registered independent. I don't know. I feel like the climate we're in is forcing us to all kind of stand in a spot and hold a space. So,
Right.
So I'm just, I'm worried.
I'm worried about, outrage and people like, civil unrest to the point of violence, to the point of civil war, like that concerns me. And I feel like I wish people would calm down, but
Yeah. Which people?
everybody, but I don't know the answer. Like I don't pretend to know an answer, but I do think like more outrage will lead to more violence. To me, seems not the answer.
Yeah, the temperature's pretty hot right
It's
now.
very hot, and it's getting hotter. And there was a recent,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer. I honestly don't.
Yeah.
But
if you find out, will you let me know?
we'll talk about it at hot yoga.
Okay. Go sweat it out.
Go sweat it out.
Yeah.
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 Going from God to peanuts.
Wait, hold on. I want to.
I went to get her.
Oh,
I went to get her. When you send somebody to buy a protein bar, and you don't say which.
Oh yeah, what'd you get?
I looked for a bag of peanuts, and the most trivial thing they did not have.
And so nobody's
give
selling
her-
peanuts
just give
anymore?
her all of them.
It's the biggest bodega in the area. They have everything except a bag of peanuts.
I miss yesteryear.
Right.
You used to walk into a bodega and get a bag of peanuts. Want to share this with me?
No, thank you. I'm not doing carbs.
Oh, right, which explains your absolute zero body fat.
I'm on ketosis.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm using fat as the fuel source.
How long have you been Has anyone ever eaten during your podcast?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, we ate breakfast with Keith
Keith
Morris.
Oh,
But so one other thing you said, and I'll let you eat too. Like just feel free. But like,
are we rolling? When are we starting?
Oh, we're starting in about 10 minutes. No, we're starting. We've started. So, but one of the things I found real interesting was that you said when you came out, how you came out as a Christian, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that I could relate to too. Like that seemed like, because I like I said, I'm kind of non-denominational with my
Right.
belief in God. But if I'm honest, and I love Hinduism,
Mm-hmm.
but if I'm honest, and it's hard for me to come out about this, but I kind of lean towards a Jesus vibe in terms of my faith too. But because of everything you've already stated here, I have a natural repulsion towards, I guess, coming out as that.
Yeah.
And plus, I don't like exclusivity really, and like all that you said, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And so, but I was curious. That just struck me as interesting. You said that somewhere that was other kind of coming out.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps you kind of lean toward, as you said, the Jesus God.
I like Jesus.
Well, it's what you knew. Like if you grow up in a
I'm from Ohio.
right, that's what you know. You eat the food you like and crave the food your folks made for you when you were a kid, and you like and crave and feel comforted, perhaps, by the religious bent that you knew as a child. I mean, it's kind of cultural. It makes sense. For me,
That's
like
true.
when I came out, first of all, whenever I say Christian, that's the way that I was raised. But I was always I always had issues with the Father, Son, Holy Ghost thing.
What do you mean?
I never really.
Where are the women in there?
Well, that aside, no women in that. But my point was, I know we were told that, God gave his only son and Jesus walked the earth. I believe Jesus did walk the earth. But the whole Jesus let his son be crucified and killed to exonerate us from our sin. I just was like, I can buy into we were made by a being, but I never really fully metabolized and understood. I've read the Bible a couple of times. I'm not a good Christian in the way that I think the only path to salvation is through Jesus Christ, our Savior, as they say.
Yeah.
I've never believed that, and in fact, my travels around the world have really kind of galvanized my not believing that.
Yeah, that doesn't feel comfortable to me either. Right. I feel like Jesus would be.
Jesus would have been the coolest dude around. I feel like
Jesus would be like, what, Hinduism is cool too.
Right.
But I don't really know. I don't know much about religion. You know, either. I just.
Few do.
Yeah.
Including me.
Yeah.
So to your point about my saying that I had to come out as a Christian when I came out, I felt that I came out like almost a decade ago now, which is crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. When you are part of a faith or part of a community like the LGBTQ community, who most of us sat in church pews during our childhood, most of us had a big fat secret. And most of us heard our preacher, our pastor, our priest talk about
disparage homosexuality.
People like, drunkard, thief, murderer, adulterer, homosexual.
Right.
So at some point in one's life, and I think it's a part of human kind of fight or flight, sometimes we have to kind of jettison these negative things so we can survive. And is it any wonder that LGBTQ people left their churches? It's like, and I write about this I think I write about it in my book, or I've talked about it.
It's me.
A lot. Like me? Yeah.
Oh, like me, sorry.
That you remember being on the playground as a kid and during recess, and there are two kids, and they're the co-captains of what will be the kickball team, and they're going to pick from everybody. And Johnny picks that kid, and Sally picks that kid, and they go back and forth, and you're never the one that's picked first, and you're often the kid that's picked last. At some point, you're going to say, I hate recess. I don't want to go to recess.
Right.
Why would I want to go out there and be picked last?
Yeah, that rejection.
Yeah, and so the LGBTQ community, we have so many stories among us about not just feeling welcome, but being actually maligned and being told we're going to hell and being sent to conversion therapy, which is incredibly damaging in every way.
Right.
So
conversion
therapy. It's sick and it's still happening. So when I came out, that's why I wanted to just not go, tweet, hey y'all, I'm gay. I wanted to tell, as I've often said, the nuanced story of what it's like to hide the essence of who you are and the essence of who I am as a person of faith, a gay person. I love country music. I'm a Midwestern farm girl. Like, these things can coexist.
Right.
And so I did, in a way, feel like I was coming out in the gay community, in the LGBT community as a person of faith, and it blew my mind and continues to blow my mind how many people of faith write to me or talk to me at a show and say, your story was kind of the first time I could see my whole story in one book.
Yeah, and the mix of contradiction or supposed contradictions.
Right. Yeah, and so I felt, and I continue to feel really proud. But I would say that again, my faith practice has waxed and waned, especially in the past decade.
Right.
Mostly about like the organization of evangelical religion here. It's just
I would say don't let religion screw up your faith.
Right.
Like, that should be a song.
That should be a bumper sticker.
That should be a
song.
bumper sticker. But that's I guess I'm lucky and to speak to your point about what happened to you, which you got forced into religion. I just never did. Like it
Lucky
was.
you.
I got lucky in that way. Like I literally had to ask to go to church. Nobody. Like I went with my grandma. None of my parents didn't even want to go. Like, so I just and then I was sent to like a summer camp, Jewish summer camp. I'm not Jewish. Like it's crazy. Like it was like so.
That's
I guess
cool.
yeah, it's kind of cool in a way because it just like it was like a complete. And then there was enough like trauma and psychic pain, like bucket loads of it, to where I did need to like seek that comfort. And I just heard you say somewhere that like that connection never left you, and it's like that's the essence, is that connection. It's not like what this guy's doing and that guy's doing and this guy in that robe is saying and he's full of shit, you know, like of course, like to me, like, yeah, of course they're all full of shit. Like I got that from like, you know, that's I got that from when I was like a teenager and I've seen it the whole time. So, but the connection between me and that thing, guy, girl,
absolutely.
Force.
Yeah.
It ain't getting messed with by all these full of shit malarkeys.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's so great that that's intact for you and kind of has some kind of a barrier. Somehow you've been able, or the way you've lived your life or the people around you have left kind of an impenetrable barrier around that really beautiful essence of your faith. And when we know, I mean, you just need to watch the news once to know that so many, especially young people, that's not impenetrable for them because it's coming at them, the judgment, the rhetoric, the dogma. You know, it's dangerous, and I kind of identify with you in the way that that's just kind of been a sovereign part of me for so long, and we're lucky.
Yeah, we are
really
very,
lucky.
very lucky. Yeah.
What are you with your? You have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two.
So do you?
George and who?
George and Everett.
George and Everett.
They're 6.
Do you? Do you bring like religion into the house at what age, and like do you force them to go to church? What do you do when they say, "Mommy, I don't want to go to church"?
My wife is Jewish.
Okay.
And I'm, kind of non-denominational Christian. They've gone to temple a couple of times. Well, have they? We went to a couple of bar mitzvahs, though. I don't think they went. Perhaps the first time we took them into a church was last fall. Okay. And I go into a church. I'm in a church maybe every 2 or 3 days. I go by myself.
You go to church frequently?
I don't go to church services. I go into a church.
Oh. Yeah, I do that too sometimes.
Yeah. That's how I do it for me. And so I've been into every church on the Upper East, Upper West, Harlem.
What's your favorite?
St. Ignatius, I think, is beautiful on the Upper East Side. It's gorgeous. I mean, St. Patrick's is beautiful. I go to churches I go to the Greek Orthodox churches. Anywhere the door is open, I'm in there. Mm-hmm. And so my wife and I were walking with our boys on a fall afternoon. It was kind of cool. We were headed out for some hot chocolate at Starbucks. We walked past a church, and my wife has never gone into these churches with me. I've never asked her. I wouldn't. And we walked by a church. I said, let's go in here. Let's show the boys this. And it was like a Saturday afternoon. We go in, and the boys are talking really loudly. And we said, kind of got to be quiet. There were maybe 2 or 3 people in there praying, but they were on their way out. And the boys, they were like, whoa, it's so big. I was like, yeah. And one of them commented, it looks so much bigger inside than it does on the outside, which is something I've always thought about churches. And so we left, and George said, so Everett was walking with Lauren about 30 yards ahead, and I was walking with George, and he said, Mama, the people in there were dead. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, they were dead. And I said, they weren't dead. I said, why do you think they were dead? And he said, they weren't moving. And I said, oh, they were praying. And George said, what is praying? And I said, well, it's like when you close your eyes and you make a wish. And he said, like to Santa? I was like, Yep.
Yeah, that's
it.
good. Make a wish.
I mean, at some point, my boys will. I mean, we don't. They don't do nighttime prayers. But we do affirm things in the nighttime before we go to bed. We talk about the people we love and that we think about them and hope they're feeling better. And so, I hope that our boys kind of get, kind of what you got from your folks, which was a safe and open space to kind of explore that their spirituality. They're 6 years old. So I don't want to instill a dogma in them. I don't, they may want to practice Judaism.
Right.
I've thought about converting. I love it.
Oh, yeah?
Love it. It's beautiful. And the temples are pretty great too. So the answer to your question is no, they don't. I feel like they have the byproducts of a faith practice right now. They have I think the value system that we want them to know about, which is try to be a good person, and you're going to fail every day at being a good person, so the next day you get another shot at it.
What do you love about Judaism?
It's more inclusive. I really like the services. I really like I like the music. I like the tones and the intervals of the music and the.
But isn't Judaism about Jesus is not the Savior, or is it?
Yeah.
So you're kind of leaning more that way now?
Well, I told you I was never really.
You said you didn't think that was the only way, but you didn't really say that you didn't believe.
Yeah,
that
I
for
was
yourself.
trying, and then I misspoke. I was trying to tell you that I never.
You never believed.
I
that.
never really. Although when I was baptized at age 9,
right?
It was my pastor Warren Skiles. We talked about Jesus, and I said the things that I had been taught to say because I really wanted to be baptized. I asked to be baptized, and I write about that in my book. That I'm like you. I asked to go to church. My parents didn't go every weekend. I did. But I never really, I just believed in God. And the whole Father, Son, Holy Ghost thing just really threw me. And I didn't, a few times in my life I've prayed in Jesus' name. I pray, but I don't anymore. I don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
The prayer I said as a kid, dear God, please don't let me be gay. I promise to be a good person. I promise not to lie, not to cheat, not to steal. In your name I pray, amen. I was invoking some Jesus stuff there, but it was only because that's what I knew.
Yeah, I like, sometimes I'll say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke the spirit of fear. Whenever I'm afraid, I turn to Jesus like that. But
my mom,
but I also
that's
like
the language.
Hinduism and all that stuff too. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is that for you saying that, it's because that's in your DNA. Like that's what.
I think he's like one of the main guys.
Right.
I love him.
He's
right. But like I just don't think
just
think he's like I'm just more open-ended about it. Like it's not, and I don't think if you don't believe that, I don't think you're going to hell.
Right.
I just don't believe that. But I do believe people. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. What about your mom?
No, I was going to say my mom. That's the language she used as well.
Yeah.
And she believed it very, passionately and deeply. And so she talked about Jesus a lot.
Yeah.
And it was completely authentic for her.
Yeah.
And I remember watching The Exorcist when I was a kid.
I remember watching The Exorcist when I was a kid too. That's traumatic.
And it scared me so bad. I was a little kid, and my dad let me stay up late. He stayed up late and watched it with me. He fell asleep on the couch, and I watched the whole thing. And the next morning, my mom said to my dad, "You let her watch what?"
Right.
And it scared me so.
How old were you?
6 or 7.
Yeah, that's too young.
And I remember just being terrified. I couldn't sleep the next couple of nights. And my mom said, if you ever feel like you're being possessed by a demon, because I've just had this fear, because I also was kind of understanding that I was different at that time. And so I thought, of course, I made a small, reasonable leap for a 7 or 8 year old that, of course, I'm possessed by the devil. If I'm gay, I'm possessed by the devil. So my mom would just tell me, if you ever feel afraid, all you have to say is, in Jesus' name, I reject you, or go away or God help me or whatever. So that was the language that made sense to me too.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, so you had a pretty complicated relationship with your mom, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Olympically complicated.
By the way, I have a very complicated relationship with my family of origin as well, so I can relate to you.
Your family of origin.
Yeah, I can relate to you on that.
What do you mean by that, family of origin?
Or just like mom, dad,
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah. Your immediate family.
Immediate family, yeah. But then there was a part where you guys were estranged for a while, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, about 20 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And then, but you came together at the end.
Yeah, I mean, my mom was estranged from all three of us kids.
So you had two siblings?
Yeah, I'll be 49 in a couple of months.
Yeah.
My sister Jenny just turned 50, and my brother Chris will be 51 in a couple of weeks, next week.
Oh, so you're the youngest.
I'm the baby.
Yeah,
and so you are.
You guys pretty close together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 71.
Yeah.
You're 70.
Yeah, 1970.
Yeah.
We were all, my mom did so many things right. But as, parenting is just full of trapdoors.
Yeah.
And so, my mom had a difficult life from the get-go. She was a polio survivor. Mm-hmm. And so there are a lot of things going on with my mom. And she basically raised us. My dad worked a lot. He was a construction worker in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So really my mom had this burden of having no money, no resources. Mm-hmm. She was a stay-at-home mom and probably was not designed to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm. Well, just more of like needed a more of like...
Well, she was really shy.
Uh-huh.
But she was incredibly smart.
Right.
And needed probably some more adult stimulation.
Okay.
She had a couple of good friends. My mom was always the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. And so to be stuck at home, and I'm not saying anything pejorative about parents who are caregivers at home, but
right, but it can drive you a little nuts.
She was literally stuck at home with, often our car didn't work, no way to get out there, no way to kind of socialize and kind of bounce ideas off of other people. She was really creative and really smart. And
like a thwarted artist, maybe.
Well, yeah, she was a great writer.
Uh-huh.
She was really super creative and just really, read a lot of books and would write essays. And she was a remarkable person. Again, not designed to be at home with 3 kids all the time.
Right.
And so then she and my dad divorced after about 25 years. And she, that was not pretty, and something kind of unclicked for her. And so she's gone now, so I don't want to say things that, she can't, rebuff or rebuke.
Right.
She's kind of left. She kind of left us.
She checked out.
Yeah, the 3 of us kids were out in our adult lives already, so it's not like she picked up and moved out of our house. We were already gone, but she emotionally kind of evaporated, and and so that was hard. And we kids would
is hard.
Yeah, we would reconnect with her, and she was, somebody was always kind of in the barrel, like. 2 of us would be like in her good graces, and then she would kind of go after one.
So the scapegoat would shift positions?
Oh yeah, it was a moving target.
That's wild.
And we would call it...
That's lucky, in a way.
She had options.
Yeah, there was a reprieve at each of us at a time. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, we all loved our mother and the whole time and missed her, and
of course,
but it was complicated, and sometimes there are just relationships that aren't safe, and for a long time she wasn't safe for me, and I knew I was gay, and I knew I was going to come out, and so I didn't tell her that I was coming out because I hadn't talked to her in a couple of years, and I told her, I came out on the Today Show, and she called me and just kind of about a 2-hour dressing down of my spirit.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, we found out she was sick.
Uh-huh.
And we all kind of rushed home. I swore to my wife that she would never meet my mom, and that, not because I was trying to punish my mom, but because I didn't want to subject my wife to it.
You said it was unsafe for you. I can relate to that.
Yeah. And so we all went. My mom was sick. We all went. We got the day after we all kind of got there.
When you went, did you feel scared about it? It must have been terrifying at that point.
I didn't, because I've had a tremendous amount of therapy in my life. I had really found a true compassion for my mom around 2008, 2009. I did a lot of work on myself, and a lot of some portals to compassion really opened up. And
how so?
I went to a place called the Hoffman Institute in California, which is a really cool place to kind of go pull yourself apart and put yourself back together.
So Hoffman Institute. What's the?
It's worth Googling. It's like a mental health retreat.
Okay.
Where you go and you're alongside other people kind of in the same path on trying to kind of jettison some of that negativity, and 9 times out of 10 with my colleagues and my peers at the Hoffman Institute, and it's like Fight Club. There's one thing about the Hoffman Institute, you don't talk about it. But I can tell you the top line of it is that all of us kind of going there 9 times out of 10, it's a parental relationship that a person is trying to reconcile.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
It's powerful, and so that was 2008. I went there before I came out, as I was writing my book and preparing to come out.
Yeah.
And they take you through a lot of different exercises, and you write a lot, and you just do that work that we as humans need to do.
Did that stuff make it in your book?
Some of the practices did. I didn't identify them or tab them as Hoffman Institute practices, but I remember the day that all of the work I had done kind of coalesced, and my counselor there asked me, what do you feel and what do you see? Because I just had an eruption of real compassion for my mom, and it was purple. It was like I just was washed over, and my eyes were closed, but I just saw this beautiful, deep purple.
That's
and so
the third eye chakra.
Is it?
Yeah, that's up here. Is
that good?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's they're color coded, the chakras.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's up there.
Well, I had that.
Yeah, maybe that's a Kundalini awakening almost, or something like that.
I like what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at Hot Yoga.
We will. I was awash in what was,
purple.
For years I'd been going to therapy and saying to myself and to my friends and my partners and my therapist, well, my mom's doing the best she can. But I didn't really believe it.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have to believe it anymore. I knew it.
Oh, yeah.
And so when we found out my mom was sick, and my brother called and he said, I think it's brain cancer. I said, why would you say that? He said, because she's talking crazy. She said she wishes she could meet Lauren and the boys. And in that instant, I knew we were going, and I didn't have any regret.
Well, that's beautiful.
It was.
I do think so too, that everybody's doing the best they can, even if the best they can kind of sucks, that's a kind of a silly way of putting it, but you know what I mean.
It's not silly at all.
Yeah.
What I have learned, and I try to let myself have this as well. We really do wake up every day, and we do the very best we can. And some days I'm so broken beyond, belief. I don't do very well. And then the next day I go sit, in a church, or go for a walk in Central Park, or read a book to my kids, and I get a reset, and I get grace, and I get to try again.
Have you researched MPD at all? Narcissistic personality disorder?
Sure. I thought you said MPD, but of course my mom was narcissist.
Okay.
I also think she had maybe some bipolar issues, undiagnosed. I mean, her poor little body went through so much.
Yeah.
Being, having had polio early in her life, and she was in the hospital having surgeries like nonstop from, when she was first diagnosed at a very young age until like 9 years old.
Yeah.
Think of how formative your life is as a human being from a toddler to 9 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, to be in a hospital.
Yeah. Your song "Shut Up and Drive" has that line about like you'll miss me, but you're gonna miss.
You'll only miss the man you wanted him to be.
Right. That's so MPD, because like like a lot of times we like imagine people being something other than what they are, especially people that have that are narcs. The thing about that disorder that's crazy is once I realized that like it, like with covert narcissism, it's on purpose, and there's an intention to
destroy everything in its path.
Yeah, hurt the other person. That was that once I started waking up to that and sort of seeing how that was operating in my life, and how I had gotten very close to like almost my life ending because of it. It took it's taken me a lot. Now I'm on the same page as you. I'm back to everybody's doing the best they can, even if they are infected by a Jezebel spirit, for instance, or MPD, or whatever you want to call it. Like, even if there's a layer of evil going on, I still can have compassion through that, because that means they have a disorder, a disease. So it's not the soul of the person I can be compassionate about. And plus, I also tend to view everything in a more abstract way, like where, this is like soul boot camp. Yeah. And so you're part of my soul boot camp. And if I can survive this, then I'll find a greater purpose and a deeper existence. So therefore I love you anyway, maybe even because of it, but for people that are like deep into the trenches of that and still in like locked in despair, or locked near suicide and all that, and I know you can relate to that, like it's a little gnarlier. Like that compassion is something that is a great gift if you can arrive there. Yeah. But you have to do a lot of work on yourself, and you have to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a trap door for sure. And when a person is in it, in the throes of, we go to battle every day with ourselves, and then when you engage another kind of entity, like a parent or a sibling or somebody that's broken, but they're tangled up with us, you got to have the proper tools to go to battle. And that's why therapy or meditation or faith or whatever are helpful tools to kind of get through. And it's hard to set aside anger. Anger is,
when you first wake up to that stuff, it's like rage.
Yeah.
Man, like, wait, you mean you knew, like you
it's
mean
hard.
That shit was on purpose? Are you kidding me? Like,
right.
Like,
well,
40 years of on purpose bullshit. Like, okay. Yeah.
But it's like, like Muhammad Ali, when he, the rope-a-dope.
I box.
Okay, so
I'm a boxer too.
All right, so the rope-a-dope that Muhammad Ali often employed to win. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know what it is, it's basically he just kind of laid back and let his opponent just tucker themselves out. Right?
Tucker themselves out. You are Midwestern.
And then, right. And then he would just lay one glove on them and they'd fall over because they've exhausted themselves. We do an emotional rope-a-dope every day, and the quicker you can get to, and I say this not because I've mastered it, because I try to employ it, but the quicker we can release anger, because as I always say, it doesn't serve me. It's never helped me, not a single time.
Right. Well, anger, actually, I would disagree with that, not to be a contrarian.
Yeah, no, I love contrarians.
I love contrarians too. But I think anger is useful, especially like for empaths and scapegoats that are like, or if you've been raised up that way to like where, you know, it's like anger is something you can graduate into. You have to finally let it go, but like it's a protector, you know, and a lot of people are super vulnerable towards like they just have no like that they veer towards depression, and then so like one like rung up from depression is anger, because then at least you're like actively
engaging.
On your own side at that point, which is huge step for a lot of people. But then they have to go past anger because you can't live in that, you know.
Right. One way to look at anger for me is like it's like an antibiotic. Like you don't want to take it all the time.
Right.
It loses its effectiveness if you're always on an antibiotic.
Yeah.
But there are times when, you know, you should pick it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it can protect you. So I know I'm not the interviewer.
Yeah,
but,
you are.
But so you mentioned before about your complicated relationship with your folks.
Yeah.
And a sibling.
Uh-huh.
So what? Give me the top line of that, if you will, since I gave you mine.
Well, I started discovering MPD, and I was waking up to the dynamics of that, and I started. I started talking about it openly. Like I lean towards openness.
Yeah.
Probably too much openness. And then a lot of really odd things started happening with my family of origin, to the point where it became untenable for me to remain within it, essentially. So I've been estranged from my entire family for years now, which is
that's heavy.
Very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I like it. That hurts.
Oh,
I hurt for you.
Well, thank you. It is what it is. It is. It's incredibly heavy. It's how I root my life. It's why when I wake up in the morning, I ho'oponopono for an hour. I on a run into hot yoga, and my whole life has become survival. It always has been, because it was survival before that, but it was like within a lot of toxic structures going on. And so I've evolved into all these survival skills, you know, it's given me, well, like you said too, like, okay, you have a voice, and I've begun making videos about surviving this kind of stuff, and and a lot of people respond that it helps them. So all of a sudden, like these struggles that we have, like the struggles that you've had, like they actually make us, like you can see how, oh, this has like made my life more significant. Not that you're doing this on purpose for a significant life, but because of all you've dealt with, like all your like, oh my, contradictions and wildness, you've inspired so many people and given so much. Imagine if you were just like who you should have been, this country star, you know, married with kids, like in a straight world, and never question anything. Yeah, like that might have been the dream as the little girl. Yeah. But like,
it was.
Would you trade it for what you have now? I mean, and how intensely meaningful your life is now? Like, so yeah. And
I wouldn't be me.
You wouldn't be you, and also you wouldn't be nearly as interesting. Like, you know, no offense to straight people out there,
right?
But we
don't judge them.
You know. But like,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
So I look at it like that, and I do love my family of origin, and I would love for there to be some kind of resolution. And I've made attempts in a way, but it's complicated, you know, as you know. I can relate to you with what you dealt with your mother, but like even the fact that you came back together at the end is inspiring to me, and of course I'm full of love. I love them, but at the same time, like what you said, it's not safe for me. Yeah. And my life has progressed and healed in ways that are unimaginable to who I was 4 years ago, for instance, or, you know, like, so it's obvious in a way that this is just the path that I'm meant to be on.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it plays out. But, you know, it's incredibly painful, you know, particularly, you know, I miss my nephews like nobody's business.
Yeah.
I mean, I love and miss them incredibly, and
how long has
pray
this
for them and
been?
ho'oponopono for them. And but also I also feel like there is, anyway.
How long has the estrangement been?
It's been over 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's heavy, but it's also,
That's new. It's still pretty new.
Still very new. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's this is the first year where it's like my focus isn't totally on them. I mean, but like also it was super focused on them for a while. Now it's more just like, you know, things like the fruits of survival and healing are starting to reveal themselves in things like even this podcast, for instance. And just like, but I almost went homeless. I mean, I had, you know, I mean, it was nuts. It was.
When did you almost go homeless?
You know, after a couple, like, but right before I started that band with Peter Buck, like that bailed me out of major.
When you had to move out of Brooklyn?
Yeah, I mean, that's
the title of your memoir.
What?
I had to move out of Brooklyn.
Yeah, I had to. I did have to. And the yoga practice really really helped me, because I also went through a period like dark night of the soul thing, like isolation, and I wouldn't say like I didn't come as close to suicide as I feel like from your story, what you've detailed in that regard, but it's certainly.
You were giving up.
No, I didn't. I actually, no, I had this I found like the eye of the tiger, like, because it was so, like when you talked about your story in that regard. Yeah. I saw in an interview you said, you know, I didn't have. You actually, and this like a light bulb went off in my head when you said this, because you were like, wasn't like I had $30 in the bank, like I had stuff. That was a quote. I might get the dollar amount wrong, but it was along those lines. You remember saying something like that?
I don't specifically. I don't know when I said it, but I've made that point often that I wasn't, you know, destitute. I had resources. I did have only $30. Like, I was destitute. And so in a way that helped me, because it was so insane. It across the board. Like that it was like there was no it became impossible to even like mess around on any level. It became like, dude, it was like survival kicks in. Yeah. It's almost like if you get, like, if you're trapped under a car and suddenly you can lift the car. Yeah. Kind of thing. It was dire straits.
It was dire straits. Like, so I feel like in a way, if I had money or this or that or something else, it could have messed me up in some way, because I could have been like, I could have leaned on self-pity, whereas I could not afford self-pity. I just couldn't afford it at all. It was like, it became like, okay, I started boxing. I started like, you know, doing all this other kind of like stuff. And then
having resources can often delay a person's rock bottom, because there are certain medications of all stripes that a person can access if you have resources. Right. And I'm not talking necessarily pharmaceuticals.
I know what you mean.
There are 1,000 ways. Yeah, there are 1,000 ways to medicate, or, you know, the magical thinking. I'll just buy a new house. You know, there are ways to distract yourself, and
some Prada shoes.
Yeah, I mean, that's really not my thing, but a new guitar.
A new guitar.
But Yeah, when I hit my rock bottom in early 2006.
Yeah.
It was definitely on my mind that, I'm not. People have it harder than I have it.
Yeah.
Yet this feels like my bottom.
Right.
And I know, having grown up in a household with not enough money,
right.
I know the stresses that my folks went through and watched that. Like, they literally were like deciding to pay the water bill or the light bill.
Right.
And then we couldn't mail it because the check wouldn't clear yet, and we waited till midnight the night before and drove it and deposited it. It's all that kind of stuff.
No, it becomes so
I know the
painful,
stressors of that, and so I was hyper aware during my breakdown that, I don't have it as bad as some people have it. Yet I'm done. Like, I was done.
Why do you think you were done at that point?
Because I'd boxed myself in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd created an entire facade of who I was supposed to be,
And it stopped working.
Well, when I cut a deal with God when I was a kid that, I'll never be gay, and then my deal kind of changed as the years went by. I'll be gay, but I won't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you cut these deals with God when you're 9 and 13 and 15, one doesn't really realize what a powerful role companionship and love will ultimately play in your life. So, I had a partner for 12 years, and we fell apart because, we were in the closet, and and so I was exhausted spiritually, physically, emotionally. I didn't know a way out of that corner into which I had really painted myself. No one had ever, no commercial country artist in Nashville had ever come out.
Right.
And I didn't see a way to undo, all of that thing that I'd built.
Yeah.
Just done.
What did your partner during those 10 or 12 years, what were her feelings? Did she try to get you to come out, or she wasn't out either? You were both...
Yeah, she wasn't out either, and it was, we both...
Did you both want to come out and you just didn't do it because of the country situation?
We didn't. She didn't want to come out, but she wanted me to... We told two people, our therapist, and then we told a couple, friend of ours, two lesbians who were a couple. But what she wanted me to do was tell my band and my managers, and because it was always awkward, like she felt uncomfortable in situations where kind of my team was around because they just thought she was my friend, and so she wanted to have it be known by...
She wanted recognition.
Yeah, and just... if she needed to text or call my manager late in the night for something, she wanted to be able to do that. And as it stood, she was just my friend. And so, but I would not do that. I wouldn't tell anybody. I have a lot of reasons for that. The most compelling was when you arm people with your truth, when you're a closeted country singer and they work for you, then you better be prepared to keep them in your employ forever.
Right. Yeah.
So you were walking around like you were having an affair the whole time, pretty much. Sort of the feeling where you can't, and I get it.
Yeah.
Is that why the relationship broke up? Because you refused to do it?
No. I mean, it was part of the soup, but the relationship ended because I got spooked. I got scared that we were about to be outed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I panicked. And I was a mutual, a peer in the industry who had been a friend of mine for a long time. Since I first got to Nashville, we were friends. We worked at a theme park together. We watched an NCAA basketball game one night, and we were at the studio, and then we went to his house, and he had a couple of beers, and he was driving me back, and we were never romantic. Like, I would never, this was not anything. It wasn't a date or anything like that. We'd been pals for a long time, but he had a few beers in him, and he said, "I'm going to ask you something." And I write about this in my book. He said, "Are you gay?" And for the first time ever in my professional life, I'd always set it up to where no one had ever asked me that. I just kept that's not a question anyone would ever ask me.
Right.
Because I kept everyone at an arm's length. And, and I omitted, by not saying things, I was lying all the time, but I never actually had to answer that question. He said, "Are you gay?" And I took a breath, and I was alone with him in his car. And I took a breath in, and I said, "No, I'm not." And he said, "'Cause that shit ain't right. That will never fly." And I felt incredibly unsafe. But I thwarted, I kind of fought off the situation as it was.
Why would somebody ask that and then respond that? Like,
so you were weighing your career versus coming out in a way, and that ended your relationship.
Yeah, so I panicked in the next few days, and my partner asked what was going on, and I told her what that conversation was, and
that freaked you out.
It freaked me out, and I said, "We got to sell the house. We moved. We bought separate houses." And in the back of my mind, I really, honest to God, and I've read my journals since then, I really thought we would just cool it for a little bit and then end up back together. And that fissure, that crack that I kind of allowed to exist just widened, and a lot of hurt and a lot of damage happened, and then I had my breakdown in 2006, shortly after that. And that's when I knew, and she and I even tried to get back together. We went back to therapy. But I knew as I was in therapy with her, nothing is going to change in my life unless I come out. And I knew she did not, at that point, want to come out.
Has she come out since?
I don't want to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Still friends?
I don't want to say.
Okay.
But I knew I can't get back with her again. I will break her again.
Right.
I have to come out. And so.
Was writing the book like, what inspired you to write the book?
Yeah, so after I had a gun in my mouth, and I say with no amount of, I don't mean to be flip about it. The morning I didn't kill myself was the morning I knew, I gotta really come out, like all the way out. I gotta do it right. I gotta write down the whole story. If I have to go bind this at Kinko's and pay for each copy and then hand them out, I will. So I didn't have a book deal.
Because you wanted the whole story explained in the way that you wanted to explain it. So.
Yeah, because there were a number of ways, and even after I wrote the book and put it out, there were a number of ways that people, tried to mitigate my story or negate my story. Well, she was, she wasn't at the height of her career anymore. She was never that big a star. There are a number of ways that people try to minimize, a person.
People are assholes.
Right. But I knew in my heart.
Not all together, but a lot of times.
We are all assholes at some point.
Guilty.
But I knew.
Well, this guy.
I know. Well, that.
Obviously, this guy.
Obviously, this guy.
I knew that there would be someone, even if it were one person, who would read my book and feel less alone. And I knew I had a public capital with country fans. Most of them at that time knew who I was.
Yeah.
And I that's how I decided to cash in my chips and be known. Yeah. And so writing the book was incredibly, it was not the book I thought I was going to write.
Right.
I started writing it the day, shortly after I didn't end my life. And I opened my laptop, opened a Word document, wrote "Like Me" as my title page.
Like Me. Where'd you come up with that title?
It was a song that
you had the song.
It was a song that I was coming up on a record Rodney Crowell and I were making that I hid from him.
I know, I know the story, yeah.
So, and I just knew that was the title. I began writing and I stayed at that table for days. I mean, I barely ate, I barely slept. I cried a river. I knew I was writing it. I knew it was happening. And then I moved to New York. I had it in my head, Random House is going to publish my book. Why? I don't know. That's the only publisher, that's the biggest publisher in the world that I knew of.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, Random House did publish my book.
That's amazing. And how long did it take you to write it?
From starting it to when it came out, it was more than 3 years.
Right.
So I moved to New York to finish my book. I was in the middle of writing it, and I moved to New York, frankly, because I thought I would chicken out if I stayed in Nashville writing it.
Just because of the weird Nashville small town vibe, or
yeah, I mean, one can really only write so many hours a day, and then your real life kind of seeps back in on you.
Yeah.
And I just was afraid that I would lose my courage as my real life kind of seeped in those hours when I wasn't writing. So I moved to New York.
Yeah.
Just didn't,
probably smart.
And got really quiet,
Yeah.
and wrote and spent a lot of time on the floor in the fetal position crying.
Yeah, and how would you write in the mornings, or what would you do? What was your technique, or what was your ritual?
Morning was a really good time for me to write when I was writing something that hadn't been on the page before. I found that editing, I did really good work from like 4 p.m. to midnight, but for actually getting words on the page, I would get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. And I lived on the corner of 23rd and 8th Avenue in a really beautiful corner apartment, so I could see. I loved kind of being what I felt like the first one up and thinking in New York City. New York has a magic and an energy, of course, that we all know, but that was a really good time for me to write. And then there were days that I just flat out couldn't do it, so I would ride my bike in Central Park or walk. Look or explore, learn the subway system.
Would you read memoirs by other people and get inspired that way?
I had read a lot of memoirs.
Liars Club, or
Mary Carr's one of them. She was my bridesmaid in my wedding.
Was she?
Yeah,
That's
she and I had a coffee date for yesterday, but
that is so wild. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But she's super inspiring, right? She's got that book about memoir writing.
Yeah, The Art of Memoir. Great book. So one of the chapters that was really, and Mary would feed me, and we'd play Scrabble, and
So you knew her even? Was she inspiring you during this whole time?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
really?
There was a particular chapter that I was writing that was super hard, and I just was avoiding it, and she would call, and I had a few really good friends who would check in. Rodney was one of them, and still an angel in my life. But Mary called to check in on me. I wasn't answering her text, and she called and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm struggling. I've been on the floor for 3 days crying, and I can't do this. I can't write this chapter. I fell apart." She knew what the chapter was about. I'd told her that I needed to write this chapter. I said, "Mary, I can't do it. I'm a mess." And she said, "Well, if you're not on the floor in the fetal position crying, you're not fucking doing it right."
That's amazing.
And then I found a way to do it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, she's she's an amazing. She's inspired many a memoirist, me included. She's a great poet, and she knows how she feels, and that's and she also had a really kind of interesting relationship with her mother, and so I got like millions of Americans and people around the world, I was inspired and kind of fed and watered by Mary Carr's wisdom.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I when I was going through all the stuff I was telling you about, I ended up writing about 1,000 pages towards a memoir, and I have it's just laying there like it's
Why
it's
is
on
that laying?
Hard drives, just like sort of on pause right now.
Maybe you need a coffee date with Mary.
Yeah.
But well, it would be great. But I definitely need to find my Mary.
Well, have you read The Art of Memoir?
I have, and I need to reread it. Like, you're inspiring me. This is like something I like talking about, because I'm inspired to try to finish that at some point. But it's kind of like, it's like it's so difficult.
Is it mocking you?
I mean, not actively. It's more just like, hey, I'm over here. Like, eventually you're gonna have to deal with me. Like, we're gonna have to talk about this. Like.
It's important work. And what you have on the page will change.
Yeah, it needs to.
And it could be perfect as it is, but I doubt it. And
it's not.
And what I learned as I set out to write an entirely different book than I wrote.
Right.
And I also thought they were going to assign me a ghostwriter.
Oh, okay.
I wrote my like half the book and just kept waiting for Random House to say, here's your ghostwriter, because most books written by people who don't write books, who are publicly known, have a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
But then when that's part of that really difficult chapter that was shortly after my editor said, no, you're actually going to write this book yourself.
Right.
That's when it was like I had to cross a threshold of get in it or get out of it. Like, you're either going to write this book or this is going to be an unfinished book.
Yeah.
And so you're going to cross a threshold at some point and re-engage that book, I hope.
Yeah, I will.
But did you read Chely, her other...
No.
Yeah, you should read Chely. You should read Rodney's memoir, Chinaberry Sidewalks,
that's a great title.
Brilliant. Well, it's a great book.
Yeah.
Jan Arden is a really good friend of mine who's a great memoirist as well.
Did you read any Karl Ove Knausgaard stuff?
I read passages. I didn't read the entire books.
Yeah.
Just you get back on that
do it,
horse.
Joe. Come on.
Saddle time,
Yeah.
Joe. Get in the saddle.
Well, you're inspiring me, for sure.
You used to talk about writing that all the time, and then you just I never heard of it again.
Whoa, yeah.
Can you tell me this? Can you tell me
Sure.
your title?
Let's see. What is the title? I know the title. Hold on. Wow, that's wild that I'm like spacing on the title. Holy shit. Why am I spacing on the title? I have a title. Man, I'm blocked.
It's pretty telling.
Yeah, it is telling. I need to get back to it.
Reintroduce yourself to your book.
Yeah.
There's a huge value.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Echo Maze.
Welcome to the Echo Maze?
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Thank you.
I see your cover, too.
Yeah, welcome to the Echo Maze. Yeah.
Great.
It's all about, the Echo Maze of just like, waking up to true nature of like a lot of the relationships in your life and stuff, and the Echo Maze of it, like, the Echo Maze was really like the original, the Echo Maze.
I like that. I like that better than
Yeah,
Welcome to.
It's the Echo Maze.
Yeah.
I think I made it a Guns N' Roses title for Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
No, it's the Echo Maze. Let's call it the
I think
Echo.
that's super strong.
Thank you.
Get back in the saddle. And you know that feeling when you...
it's the best feeling when you're writing it. Like,
it's the best.
No, and I could do like 10, like I was writing, like I got 1,000 pages on it. Like I was doing
huge.
I was doing like 10 hours, like 10 hours would feel like nothing, like.
And that high? Can we talk about that high?
It's amazing.
I've been writing a lot lately too.
Are you writing another one?
Or
another book or something?
Well, I've been working. So I am writing another book. I'm way into a first draft of a YA young adult book.
Oh, cool.
But I haven't worked on that in a few
like
months.
more like fiction sort of
yes.
thing. Yeah, cool.
But I've been writing songs again as of late, and
isn't that the best feeling too?
It's the best
when you're killing it that way.
Yeah, and a couple of poems. I don't write poems, but I write poems.
I'm writing poems. That's happening lately.
Yeah, I'm having a huge
nice.
burst of writing, and it just feels
the best when
it's so good. Not the work, not the poem or the song, but just the feeling of being able to like purge myself
not
of what I'm
stuck.
feeling. Yeah.
Well, because I got obsessed with Karl Ove for a minute. Obsessed is strong, but like I was
Obsession is
like fanning out, kind of thing. And he talked about how he would, when he was writing, how he found a friend or whatever, like somebody who he could then read everything he wrote that day to every night. Did you have that when you were writing your book?
Yeah, I did. I had Mary and I had Rodney.
That's incredible.
I know.
Basically, like one of the best
The best memoir.
Best memoirist.
I got Mary.
Well,
Rodney.
Yeah.
What do you got, Joe?
I mean,
I got Ehud. What the fuck?
well,
No, I love you, bro. I'm just
Mary,
kidding.
I would argue, single-handedly defined the genre of memoir. She did. It's hers.
Yeah, her and yeah.
But
for
I had a
sure.
great editor
Huge.
at Random House, like one of
How
the
did you
legendary.
get that before you had your book done? Just by the just you had like written samples of it, or what? How
I'd written 100 pages,
Okay.
and I went to.
And did you make what is it called, a book proposal or a none of that?
I had 100 pages on a Word document,
and that's it.
and I printed it out. And I was in L.A. meeting with Kevin Welk, who would put out the record that came out the day I came out, Lifted Off the Ground, that Rodney produced.
Mm-hmm.
But I was out there, and I had an afternoon. And I called my old agent at CAA, Brian Laux, who we had remained friends. And I went into his office and sat down, and I said, "There's something I knew I could trust him. I said, "There's something I want to show you." And we sat down, and I thought he would take it and read it, but I sat on his couch as he read my 100 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Can you get to New York?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm actually headed that way." And he said, "I want you to meet with this agent." And Luke Jenklow was my agent, who would become my agent. And I sat down with Luke. Luke read my pages. And he emailed me a couple days later, and he said, I knew who I didn't tell him I wanted to go to Random House. I just showed him my pages. He said, "I know who I want to take this to." He said, "I want to take this to Vicki Wilson at Random House."
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So, and what do you think about like manifesting and all that kind of stuff? Like, do you ever listen to Abraham Hicks or any of that kind of stuff, or like are you into that sort of thing? Because you manifested Random House, specifically. Like, do you think about that kind of stuff?
I think there's a power in manifesting, or in kind of willing certain things to happen. But I know that kind of put your shoulder to the grindstone work that goes into it.
Yeah, you need massive action as well.
Yeah, but I grew up on a farm. Like, if you want to move a stack of firewood to the bottom of the driveway from the top of the pasture, it's work. It's saddle time.
Yeah.
It's, but hey, I want to go back to your question, what you asked about peer review.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's super duper important.
Yeah.
And over the course of my life as a writer, whether it was writing my memoir or the YA novel I'm working on, or a poem or a song, I have always been so lucky to have creative people that I trust, that I can share that stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing half of a song for me is like running down the street naked.
Mm-hmm.
Super scary, but I do have a few people that I can trust, and I think peer review is huge, especially I know how to write a song. I know that I'm a good songwriter, but I don't know how to write a YA novel. I'm not much of a poet, and so I become even more kind of vulnerable.
Right.
And so being able to still have a lifeline of somebody to share that with, all I'm saying is keep sharing your work with whomever you're able to share it with.
Yeah, I need to find that.
You don't have anybody that you can think of?
Not right now. Not right now.
There, maybe try to find a writer's group of people kind of equally yoked.
But yeah, maybe like once I re-engage in this process, I'm sure, it's like jump and the net will appear.
It will.
Thing,
The echo maze.
The echo maze.
There were three things that I was super curious about. One, as you said, you knew since you were young that you were gay.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a period of time where you did date men.
Mm-hmm.
Were you still in doubt about yourself? Like, why go through that? Was it just for the outside appearance? And did it happen after you had gained success? And then what was, I'm not going to say motive, but what was behind that if you knew who you were?
Yeah. I wasn't having doubts about my sexuality. I knew I was gay, like full on, 100%. I mean, there's the Kinsey scale upon which everyone's kind of sexual identity kind of lands, their fluidity. I'm 100% gay. But I dated guys off and on. I dated guys in high school. Of course, it wasn't very it was never very serious. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And I dated, when I got to Nashville, I had a girlfriend before I had a boyfriend. But each time I would have these, kind of short, very dramatic relationships, I would blow them up.
Yeah. With men or with women?
With women.
With women, okay.
Because
I knew I fear, yes.
Yeah, I just could. I'm not going to be that. I can't be that. I can't pursue getting a record deal with a girlfriend, and so I would date men. But I didn't date men a lot.
But why? But
Why?
You dated men clearly, so you were business driven and success driven, and it was like for me to have a career, I have to appear to be heterosexual. So
well, the appearance of being not gay was important.
Okay.
But I will, and I've parsed this, pulled this apart hundreds of times on different interviews and in different conversations. But he's asking why I dated men if I knew I was gay. My story in dating men, and again, not very many, was I made a decision that, when my partner and I broke up, what was I going to do? I'm a country music singer who has some kind of public fan base. I wasn't going to go on to gay Tinder or gaymatch.com, which didn't exist at the time. I didn't have a dating pool of women I would date. Furthermore, I wouldn't have dated them because I was too afraid to be found out. So I did what millions of people around the world do. I made a decision, all right, if I can't be with the woman I love or meet another amazing woman, I have to find companionship. And I'm going to, and that's, I dated some really fantastic, talented, funny, decent men. And it wasn't, perhaps some of it was cover. I mean, Did
you ever come out to those men and
never,
say, never?
Not once.
So they had no clue.
They had no clue. Well, I don't know they didn't tell me they had a clue. Mm-hmm. But part of it maybe was cover. I mean, I think it'd be crazy for me to not acknowledge that the cover felt good. But 80% of it was, I like this guy.
Companionship. No,
that's totally...
And sexuality's on a continuum, too.
Yeah, we talk, but I'm 100% gay. It was just what you missed while you were at the bathroom. Yeah. I'm 100% gay. Right. So none of it was me thinking, maybe I'll meet the right guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was absolutely 100%. I don't want to live my life without companionship. And I have very good friends.
So you compromised which is understandable.
And can I tell you how many people I've met in the world who made the same compromise? Sometimes the man and the woman are both gay and they understand it and they make a life together and they've been together for 30, 40 years and that was, times have changed. Sometimes, the man knew he was gay, but, the religious kind of echo maze was telling him you can't be that.
Right.
If to fit in your social community, your faith community, your work community, your actual physical community, you have to go get a wife and have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands upon thousands and thousands of people have shared that story with me, how they did that kind of logistical math that I don't get to be who I am, so I'm going to pick a person I really like and spend my life with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the cover, when I had it, was good.
And then my follow-up was, before you were successful, there was probably that one moment where you knew, okay, I made it, and things started exploding. In the back of your mind, at that moment of being happy about the success, were you also like, fuck, what do I do now about who I am and how this fame is going to affect that?
That's a good question.
Every fucking day.
But do you remember that minute where you were like, oh, fuck, I'm famous now?
Well, not that minute, because it all kind of happens, success comes in it was slow for me. I had 6 failed singles and 2 failed albums before I ever had a hit. So it was slow. But when I had my first hit record, I remember,
bittersweet.
I remember my gold record party, and my girlfriend didn't come.
Yeah.
And I remembered seeing that, knowing I was crossing over a threshold into it. I almost didn't want to get more fame than I had.
Right.
Because the more fame that you have in music or arts, commensurate with that is people's intrigue about your life in general.
And people looking into it.
Yeah, so I remembered thinking, I like this. This is, gold record, hit record. This is nice. And I remembered, although we were all chasing, like we wanted to have platinum records and we all wanted to have the success that, Faith Hill was having at the time. I remembered thinking, I like this little spot here.
Yeah.
This can work for me. But every day of my life with more and more success, I felt more and more hollowed out. And then, to answer your question, you said, was it an oh fuck moment? The more success you get, you also have more employees and more people.
It just gets complicated.
It does. And, those people made a choice to come work for me. They chose another gig with a hot artist, with an artist with the star going up, upward trajectory in their career. They chose to come work for me. And, I had a day-to-day manager who had a special needs kid, kids in private school, and I'm his...
You feel responsible
well,
all of a sudden, yeah.
And so there were times when I walked out on award show stages to present an award or maybe perform or, be nominated for something. I remembered having a fantasy of walking up to the mic and saying, it's good to be here with you tonight. I'm gay. I did. I had that.
Did you almost do it?
No, but I thought about it all the time. I thought about it a lot. So I was never, the men I dated, we never discussed it. They didn't know. They weren't part of my
Have you
cover-up.
discussed it in retrospect with any of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't have to go further than that. Let me ask you about the...
Well, it was part of, like, when you come out...
Yeah.
It's almost... I have friends who are in the program, working AA.
That 12-step stuff.
Yeah, there are some amends that I felt like I had to make. Some really sincere apologies, some long walks, some long talks, a lot of tears, because I did a lot of damage to a couple of men that I care a lot about, and so being able to tell them, what was happening, and a couple of them had fallen in love with me, and they didn't. I couldn't tell them, or I didn't. I chose not to tell them I'm gay. When you know that you're part of kind of leaving a wake of hurt feelings behind you, you got to go back and fix some of that sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't, though.
Right. So, yeah.
It's not an obligation, but when you feel that would be beneficial and a safe place for both parties, I think it's important.
Yeah.
It was for me.
Have you had any addiction issues like that along those lines? Like
you mean
AA-ish things or anything like that?
No.
That's been a big part of my story too. All that nonsense.
I'm lucky that I don't. I don't drink.
Such a tumultuous existence that you would think maybe it would,
that I would have medicated with something.
Yeah, but
I have
didn't.
addiction on both sides of my family.
Yeah. It missed you.
Yeah, it missed me. I did. I'd never taken any kind of. I've never smoked a cigarette. I tried.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I don't drink. I tried pot for the first time in December of last year.
What?
I did an edible. That I'd never ever tried anything ever in my life. I'm like the only person in the field of music that I know that had never tried that. But I did it. I tried it for migraines. So I had a gummy and I vomited 20 times. And that the extent of my drug use is encapsulated in December of 2018.
Well, there you go. Maybe it's not for you. I think hot yoga will be the thing.
Do you?
I think it might help. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I've got a lot of friends in the program, and I identify with it a lot. As you know, as much as a person who doesn't have an addiction issue can, I respect it a lot. But that's not part of my story, thank God.
So before we end this, I wanted to ask you about the sort of direction your new music is taking and stuff. And you got an EP you're working on called Revival, right?
It's out.
Oh, it's out. I'm sorry. And then you worked with Joe Henry as well.
I did.
And is this more of a kind of going a little bit away from the music in the past?
The record I made with Joe Henry, I Am the Rain, was a definite, like, when you work with Joe Henry, it's because you want to make a record that Joe Henry makes. You know, it's like he brings so much color and tone and landscape, you know, a sonic landscape all his own. So I wanted to make that record and felt really lucky that he would write and make that record with me. And then after that was in 2016. Was it 2016? Excuse me. And then I began writing for 2 EPs. One is a holiday EP called Santa Will Find You.
Yeah, that's a scary Christmas title.
Is it?
It's a great song. I heard you played
Thank
it
you.
here last time, and the concept was great.
Thank you.
Like Santa will find you. It's
Thank you.
It's sort of daunting.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. You're nice and dark.
I know.
And I'm not a fan of Christmas albums or songs, but that was a really great song.
Thank you. I wrote that with Mindy Smith years ago. She actually recorded it for her holiday record. And then I'd written another song that Mindy had recorded and the Indigo Girls had recorded that I'd never recorded. I wrote it. It's called, what's it called? It really is a wonderful life. So that was one I had written like in 2005, and Mindy heard it and she recorded it, and then the Indigo Girls did, and a bunch of other people have. And so it's like I have these couple of songs in my hip pocket. Let me just write 3 more, do an EP. And I worked with Jeremy Lister and Dustin Ransom on both EPs. So that Santa Will Find You came out in December of 2018, and then Revival came out in May. And so it kind of feels like Revival feels like harkens back a little bit more, I think, to my commercial stuff, but it's a little poppy, and I don't know what it is.
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So are you working on more music now, or are you?
I am now.
Yeah.
Songs are
flowing.
A lot of stuff happening.
That's cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I'm finishing the master of my new record right now. Today.
Oh, hey.
From here, I'm going to.
Congrats. That feels good.
Fred Kevorkian's house.
Okay.
You know Fred?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
What's the name of the record? Do you have it titled?
Comeback World.
Oh, God, that's a great title.
Thank you.
If anything, you've got great titles.
Thank you.
When will we get to hear this record?
I'll send it to you. I think you'll like it.
I'd love to hear it.
It's coming out in October the 10th.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fall releases are so good.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a full LP?
Yeah.
Good.
Full 10 songs.
Great.
First solo album in like 5 years or something like that.
Okay. This is big.
Yeah.
This is big because you're 3 years into an estrangement of your family.
That's right. My last album was called The Family.
Oh, God.
I know.
I can't wait. I'm going to go get on iTunes.
You know.
Congrats on this record.
Thank you so much.
Hope your mastering is big and not compressed.
Yeah, well, Fred does a great job.
He's, perhaps arguably one of the best.
He's definitely one of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the real deal, big time, but also affordable, Well,
I suspect that he likes what you do.
Yeah.
To give you a sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a bro.
He's a bro.
Yeah.
Good to have a bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one. Can I go back just a
Yes.
last question, I promise.
Oh no, I mean it's
Did
fine.
The only other like famous women who I can think of that came out is a good example is Ellen.
Oh right, you were on Ellen too.
Once she came out, her career suffered
Yeah.
a lot. When you came out as a country star, like the first show following your announcement, did the audience shift? Did you feel like your career suffered from it? Like, how did that?
How
loyal are country fans?
To quantify it is tricky. The metrics of the way we measure success, it's a moving target. Like people used to buy records, and now they really don't buy records anymore.
Yeah. Well, you used to have a relationship with the Opry, and then they haven't booked you since, right?
Well, I'm actually, guess who's playing the Opry August 10th?
Oh, right on. Oh, that's
going back.
So this is the first time back.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah. So you mentioned Ellen. I did her show right after I came out, and she was a huge inspiration.
Supporter.
And her
to
mom
me.
was there.
Yeah, and her mom's book, actually, Love
Yeah.
Ellen, was a really
Gave it to you.
important book to me when I was in the closet. And I actually gave it to my dad, and my dad read it, and it was an important book to my dad as well before I came out. But Ellen found me backstage after we'd kind of been on the air or did our segment, and she came in and sat down, and she said, I want to prepare you for a couple of things. You're in a cloud right now, and you feel liberated and empowered, and she said, I want to tell you what's about to come. And we had a pretty good talk about what was coming, and she said, you're gonna have an emotional dip. You're going to feel
Regret.
panicked. Yeah, she didn't say regret, but she said there will be fallout, and it's gonna cut you off at the knees emotionally. And she said there is a backside of that. I don't know when it will come, but you will emerge from that, and you'll be better than ever and happier than ever. But she said you're about to feel a big dip, and
Is that true?
I felt, yeah. She's a sage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rosie O'Donnell kind of did the same thing. Rosie was very generous with her time and her, mentorship, and my friends who had been kind of through this and peers who had been through it, they kind of showed me the roadmap, and it was pretty true to form. They were all pretty right.
And your book has been an inspiration to other people too. Isn't that interesting? How?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I've noticed something recently. So first, the first few years when I was out, people would come to the shows and say, "I'm going to get your book," or, they had kind of a different story. But now the story now is I do a show, and then a bunch of people hang out afterward, and there's a new crop of 19 to 25-year-old young people who bring my book to me that say, oh yeah, when I realized I was gay and told my parents, they ordered your book, or they went to the bookstore. It was already out there in the space for them, which is different than what I heard in the past 9 years. So I feel like there's a sophomore class, and to have been kind of, I don't know how else to say this, but their Ellen.
Right.
And I say that with all, understanding that Ellen is a huge
It's
global
true, though.
star, and I'm not. But
yeah, but it's amazing the way that works.
It's pretty sweet.
It's
pretty.
What else do you want out of life when you know that you're helpful to others? It's come on, that's better than any Grammy you could win, or it's
incredible.
That's the deal.
It's when I told myself I'm going to write this book, and if I have to bind it at Kinko's and hand it out, that to hear what I hear now, it's the best.
It is the best. You're the best.
You're the best.
You're the best.
We're the best.
We're the best. Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Yeah,
you
thanks
as well.
for coming down.
I loved visiting with you.
Yeah, me too. And I'm totally hoping that you take me up on that yoga, because it would be great to
sweat it out.
Sweat it out with you.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. What's the prayer again?
I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Cheryl Wright. Chely Wright.
Chely.
Oh, that's an awful way to end a podcast.
You know what? I'll edit that out.
I love
But
you.
you know,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Please forgive me.
Thank you.
I love you. I'm sorry.
Every
Please
time I
forgive
have
me.
to spell
Thank
your
you.
name, I have to
It's
think
because of the
about it.
CH.
It's just
It's the
so-
CH.
We've done shows
The
together.
CH through them.
I gotta tell you, every
the
time I gotta
CH.
spell your name, I gotta look it up. I'm like,
Yeah.
how does it spell? Is it
It's like Chicago.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Awesome.
you.
Thanks,
I'm
Chely.
sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you just apply it to everything in your life, you know,
Nice.
and all the people in your life, and I send it out to, you know, those I'm estranged with, those I'm not, you know, and yeah,
That's
and
nice.
send it to Ehud for messing up.
He'll cut that out.
I'll probably leave it. But
Yeah.
I'm honest. It happens to me every time I gotta come up with your name.
It's okay.
It's the CH.
Not the first time I've heard
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Imagine what it would be like if I weren't somewhat known.
I know.
You'd get botched every day.
It'd get botched all the time. You became a professional musician young too, right? Pretty much. Like,
Are we resuming?
I'm sorry. It was like, yeah, like when you were a kid in high school doing it
I was
already.
I was subbing in and out of bands when I was 11 or 12.
That's amazing.
And then I got fired from a band called Joe Cowboy. They were all adults, and I was this kid in their band, and I was pushing for rehearsal that they didn't want to do. They had me over for rehearsal and gave me lasagna before rehearsal and said, "We got to tell you something.
Let's get rid of the kid.
We're letting you go. You can just start your own band." So I did. County Line. We were not very good, but we were busy.
Yeah.
So I was gigging every weekend. And
Yeah. I became a professional when I was in high school too. 5 nights a week, Cleveland Blues Band. Hardcore.
you guys were probably good.
We were good. Frankie Starr and Chill Factor.
Wow.
We opened up for Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Albert Collins. We were a big Cleveland rock blues band.
Joe was
cool.
playing bass.
Played bass.
Of course you were.
Bassist.
I knew
Could
that.
see it. I'm lanky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
I loved it.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
That was fun. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/ComeToWhereI'mFrom. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.